The alien princess tries to keep composure when meeting a human soldier. Towering silver towers caught the light of the twin suns, reflecting gold and purple hues across the streets. The capital planet of Arathia was known across the galaxy for its beauty and its order. Elira had walked these streets since childhood, yet the sight still filled her with quiet pride. Today, however, her thoughts were not on the familiar cityscape. Today, she would meet beings unlike any she had ever known, humans. Her attendants fluttered around her in quiet whispers, adjusting her ceremonial robe, brushing imaginary dust from her hair, and ensuring her posture remained perfect. Elira kept her expression calm, practiced, flawless. Her entire life had been training for moments like this: diplomacy, etiquette, maintaining composure no matter the situation. But the humans were unknown. Stories spoke of their strength, unpredictability, and peculiar behavior. Some said they could even outwit the most careful Arathian minds. Elira's heart, though she would never show it, raced with a mix of curiosity and nervousness. A low hum vibrated through the air as Elira's personal communicator signaled the arrival of the human delegation. She turned, her silver hair flowing like liquid metal in the gentle breeze of the balcony's open windows. Her eyes, violet and sharp, reflected a mixture of anticipation and calculation. "Prepare the reception hall," she instructed softly. "And ensure the drones monitor every entrance. We will welcome them with honor, but we must remain cautious." "Yes, Your Highness," the attendants chorused in unison, their voices perfectly harmonized. The palace halls were pristine, their walls adorned with ancient tapestries depicting the Arathian lineage of rulers. Statues of great leaders, warriors, and scholars lined the corridors. Elira's heels clicked lightly against the polished floor as she walked, her mind reviewing every detail of the ceremony. Every gesture had to be perfect, every word measured. There could be no misstep, not in front of these humans. The sound of engines approached. Elira's attendants motioned for silence as the transport ship carrying the human delegation landed in the palace's open courtyard. It was unlike any Arathian vessel, more rugged and functional than elegant. The hull bore the marks of long journeys, scratches and dents that spoke of experience rather than show. Elira's brow lifted slightly, though she did not allow her surprise to show. Humans apparently valued utility over aesthetics. The palace doors opened, revealing the human delegation. Elira's eyes settled on their leader, Captain Marcus Kane. Tall, broad-shouldered, with short brown hair and eyes that seemed to study everything without missing a detail, he stepped forward. Unlike the Arathians, Marcus wore practical clothing, layered with utility gear. He carried no ceremonial insignia, no adornment save for a small emblem on his chest, likely representing his home planet. Elira noted the contrast sharply. Where she and her people moved with the elegance of dancers, he moved with the purpose of a hunter. Marcus Kane approached, and his gaze met Elira's. He inclined his head slightly, a gesture unfamiliar yet strangely respectful. Elira returned the bow required by her customs, careful to keep her expression neutral. She studied him silently, measuring his reactions. Humans, she had been told, were quick to judge and quicker to act, but Marcus seemed calm, almost serene. That was unusual. The translator drones activated, bridging the language between their two species. Marcus spoke first. "Princess Elira, it is an honor to meet you." His voice was steady, warm, and surprisingly commanding. Elira's ears, trained to detect subtle inflections, noted no hesitation. He spoke with confidence but not arrogance. "The honor is mine, Captain Kane," Elira replied, her voice melodic yet controlled. "Your journey was long, I understand. We appreciate your effort to come in peace." She paused, observing him closely. Humans often relied on gestures as much as words, and Marcus's posture remained firm but relaxed, a balance Elira had not expected. As the delegation followed him into the hall, Elira's mind raced. She had prepared hundreds of questions, hundreds of observations to make, and hundreds of responses to anticipate. Yet Marcus's presence made her second guess. He carried an aura of quiet competence that was rare among diplomats, and Elira, despite her training, felt a flutter of unease. Not fear, she reminded herself. Curiosity. A natural, human-like curiosity. The reception hall was grand, with ceilings high enough to make one's head ache with wonder. Crystals hung from the roof, refracting the sunlight into countless colors that danced across the polished floors. Arathian guards lined the walls, their armor gleaming, their posture perfect. Elira took her place at the front, her hands folded in front of her, her back straight. She glanced at Marcus again. He was scanning the room, not with arrogance, but with a methodical awareness. Humans were unpredictable, but he seemed to carry control with him. A moment of silence passed, as if both sides were measuring the other. Then, Marcus extended his hand in greeting, a gesture that had no direct equivalent in Arathian culture. Elira's attendants gasped softly, but she forced herself to remain composed. After a heartbeat, she lifted her hand and allowed it to meet his. The sensation was oddly grounding. She expected it to feel strange, but it did not. There was strength in his grip, not oppressive, but firm, confident. "You have a strong presence, Captain," Elira said softly, letting a hint of genuine interest slip into her voice. She quickly corrected herself, keeping her tone formal. "It is clear that your species has unique strengths," Marcus nodded. "And I've heard the same of yours, Princess. Your reputation precedes you." He paused, a small, almost imperceptible smile forming. "It is good to meet someone who doesn't rely solely on appearance to command respect." Elira's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in thought. Humans were bold, she realized, braver than many of her people in direct interaction. They were willing to speak truth in a way Arathians often did not. That made them dangerous in negotiation and fascinating. The ceremony continued with the exchange of gifts. Elira presented Marcus with a crystal orb filled with swirling, colored lights that symbolized Arathian harmony and wisdom. Marcus, in turn, offered a small, metallic device. Elira studied it carefully. It seemed simple, but she could sense its utility. Humans prized function over beauty, she noted again, and yet there was elegance in that simplicity. As the gifts were exchanged, a soft vibration echoed through the palace hall. Elira's attendants stiffened immediately. She too felt it, a subtle reminder that the world outside was not entirely predictable, that diplomacy required vigilance. Marcus noticed it as well, and without hesitation he stepped slightly forward, eyes scanning the hall. He did not panic. Elira found herself admiring that. Humans were instinctively reactive, yet he maintained composure. The vibration passed and the ceremony continued. But a thought had taken root in Elira's mind. This human, this soldier, was not like the stories she had heard. He was disciplined, observant, and clever. He might be unpredictable, yes, but in a way that commanded respect rather than fear. By the time the delegation concluded their greetings and moved to the dining hall, Elira felt a strange mix of emotions. Curiosity, admiration, and an unfamiliar thrill she dared not name. She would meet humans in battle, perhaps, she mused silently. But she could also see their potential as allies. And Captain Marcus Kane, standing among his people, had already begun to change her understanding of what humans were capable of. As the doors to the dining hall closed behind the delegation, Elira allowed herself the briefest moment of relief. She had survived the first encounter without faltering. Her composure remained intact, but beneath it, a spark had been lit. The meeting had begun, and already the story of humans and Arathians was shifting. Elira felt the faintest smile touch her lips, a subtle acknowledgement of the challenge and fascination the humans had brought into her world. The dining hall was vast, filled with the soft hum of Arathian drones serving food and beverages. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting gentle rainbows across the polished floor. Princess Elira took her seat at the head of the table, her posture perfect, her expression calm and unreadable. Yet her mind was busy, analyzing every detail of the human visitors. She had seen many diplomats, ambassadors, and traders, but humans were different. Captain Marcus Kane sat across from her. Despite the grandeur of the room, he appeared comfortable, almost casual, as if he were eating a simple meal on his home planet rather than attending a royal reception. Elira's eyebrows lifted slightly. Arathian etiquette required careful restraint, a measured tone, and precise gestures. Marcus, however, smiled as he accepted a small dish, examining it curiously before tasting it. "I have to say," Marcus began, his voice steady and warm, "your cuisine is unique. But in a good way." He raised his eyebrows in a gesture that made Elira frown for a brief moment. Humans often used gestures she did not fully understand. They were bold in ways Arathians were not. Elira inclined her head slightly, maintaining her composure. "I am pleased it suits your taste, Captain. Our chefs have studied the preferences of many species." It is rare that someone finds it unusual. She noted the small smile tugging at the corner of Marcus's mouth. He seemed amused, yet respectful. The conversation continued politely, a careful exchange of words between two very different cultures. Elira asked about the human world, its governments, and their military structure. Marcus, in return, inquired about Arathian history, traditions, and daily life. He asked questions not out of curiosity alone, but as if trying to understand the world deeply, something Elira found impressive. Suddenly, a sharp vibration shook the hall. Elira's hand went to her side, instinctively signaling the drones to investigate. Marcus did not flinch. Instead, he rose slightly from his seat, scanning the room with careful eyes. The tension in the hall rose as attendants whispered to one another. Elira's pulse quickened. Such vibrations were rare in the palace, and they often signaled technical malfunctions or security breaches. A drone hovering near the entrance suddenly malfunctioned. Sparks flew from its arm as it twitched and swiveled violently, heading directly toward the guests. Panic stirred among the attendants, but Marcus reacted first. With surprising speed, he leapt from his seat and grabbed a nearby staff, deflecting the drone's arm away from the humans. Elira's eyes widened slightly. The princess had been trained in diplomacy, history, and etiquette, but she had never witnessed a human react so quickly and decisively. Marcus moved with confidence and precision, not wasting a single second. His actions were instinctive, effective, and calculated. The drone crashed into a wall, sending sparks across the polished floor, but no one was injured. "Are you all unharmed?" Marcus asked calmly, turning to ensure the human and Arathian guests were safe. His voice carried authority, yet no trace of fear. Elira nodded, carefully maintaining her composure. "Yes," she said, her voice steady. "Thank you, Captain Kane, for your quick action. Your presence is appreciated." Marcus shrugged modestly, as if it were no extraordinary feat. "It is what I do. I keep people safe." "That is part of my duty." Elira studied him quietly, intrigued. Humans valued action and instinct, while Arathians valued planning and elegance. Yet here was a human who combined instinct with strategy. His quick thinking had prevented what could have been a disastrous situation. The attendants recovered the malfunctioning drone, and the meal continued, though the air was now charged with a new energy. Elira found herself observing Marcus more closely, noting his posture, the way he interacted with the environment, and the calm focus in his eyes. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but Marcus displayed a kind of order within that unpredictability. After the meal, Elira suggested a tour of the palace's technology halls. She had prepared this tour to showcase Arathian innovations and cultural achievements, but also to gauge the humans' reactions. Marcus followed closely, his steps measured, his eyes wide with curiosity. "This device," Elira said, pointing to a small levitating orb, "is used for communication across our planets. It can transmit images, sound, and even tactile feedback." Marcus studied it carefully, then picked up a stylus and examined the interface. "It's impressive," he said thoughtfully, "but it could be made smaller, more portable. Humans like portable devices. Efficiency is important to us." Elira raised an eyebrow. She had expected compliments, but not suggestions. Humans were direct in a way Arathians rarely were. Yet his critique was not rude. It was practical, logical. Elira realized that humans had a way of seeing things that could improve even the most advanced technology. As they moved deeper into the technology halls, Elira noticed subtle changes in Marcus. He asked questions about the energy sources, the materials used, and even the construction methods of the palace itself. He listened carefully, never interrupting, yet his mind seemed to be processing everything at once. Elira felt a mixture of admiration and wariness. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were also capable of great intelligence, ingenuity, and adaptability. Their tour was interrupted by a sudden alarm. A section of the palace had experienced a minor energy fluctuation, causing some systems to malfunction. Elira's heart skipped a beat. Such incidents were rare, and the Arathian technicians scrambled to contain the issue. Marcus, however, remained calm. "Show me the problem," he said simply. Elira hesitated. Her court was meticulous, and she was trained to handle such matters herself. But Marcus's calm demeanor was infectious. She nodded and led him to the control room, where holographic panels displayed streams of energy flowing through the palace systems. Marcus studied the panels carefully, his fingers moving with precision as he analyzed the fluctuations. "It's a minor imbalance in the main conduit," he observed. "I can reroute some of the energy temporarily to prevent a shutdown." Elira watched silently as Marcus worked, marveling at the human capacity for quick problem-solving. Within minutes, the energy flow stabilized and the alarms ceased. The Arathian technicians stared at him in awe, some whispering that humans might be as capable as any Arathian engineer. "Impressive," Elira said quietly, her tone genuine. She felt a spark of respect she rarely allowed herself to show. "Your methods are effective." "You think differently than we do, but it works." Marcus glanced at her with a small, modest smile. "Different doesn't mean wrong. Sometimes it just means seeing things another way." For the first time, Elira felt a true connection forming. Here was a human who was brave, intelligent, and composed under pressure. She realized that humans were not only capable in battle, they were capable in ways that Arathians had not anticipated. After the incident, Elira led Marcus to the palace gardens. The gardens were vast, with luminescent flowers that glowed softly in the evening light. Streams of water reflected the twin suns, creating a peaceful, almost magical atmosphere. Elira allowed herself to relax slightly, walking beside Marcus in quiet companionship. "You handled the drone and the energy fluctuation very well," Elira said, her tone more personal than before. "Most Arathians would have hesitated, unsure of how to act." Marcus shrugged. "It's instinct. I've learned to trust it. And sometimes you have to act quickly without overthinking." Elira considered this. Arathians valued careful planning, long-term strategy, and flawless execution. Humans, she realized, valued adaptability, courage, and quick decision-making. Both had strengths, but humans had something Arathians often lacked: the ability to trust their own judgment in uncertain situations. As the evening progressed, Elira found herself talking more freely. She shared stories of her childhood, of training for leadership, of the responsibilities she carried. Marcus listened with genuine interest, occasionally offering observations or questions. Elira noticed that he did not judge her for being a princess. He treated her as a person, not a symbol. By the time the stars appeared in the twin skies of Arathia, Elira had come to a quiet realization. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were also remarkable in their courage, ingenuity, and honesty. Captain Marcus Kane embodied these traits in a way that fascinated her. She felt a subtle shift within herself, a recognition that composure did not mean distance or coldness. It could also mean understanding, trust, and respect for others. As they returned to the palace, Elira allowed herself the tiniest of smiles. The human soldier had challenged her assumptions, tested her composure, and shown her a new way of seeing the world. She knew that this was only the beginning. The humans were here for diplomacy, yes, but perhaps they could also be allies, companions, or even friends in ways the Arathians had never imagined. That night, as Elira retired to her chambers, she could not stop thinking about the human soldier. Marcus Kane had arrived with curiosity and courage, and he had proven that humans were more than stories or rumors. They were capable, intelligent, and worthy of respect. And for the first time in her life, Elira looked forward to the challenges and surprises the humans might bring. The following morning, Princess Elira woke to the soft glow of the twin suns spilling through the palace windows. She had barely slept. Thoughts of Captain Marcus Kane filled her mind, not in a way she expected, but with quiet curiosity. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but Marcus had shown intelligence, courage, and a kind of calm confidence she found intriguing. She rose from her bed, the smooth floor cold under her feet, and dressed in a simple yet elegant gown, careful to maintain her royal appearance while allowing comfort for what she anticipated would be a long day. Her attendants moved silently around her, adjusting fabrics and hair with delicate precision. Elira's mind, however, was elsewhere. She had spent hours reflecting on the previous day's events, the drone, the energy fluctuation, Marcus's reactions. Every detail had left an impression. She realized that her life had been rigidly structured, full of rules and expectations, but Marcus moved through situations with a freedom she secretly envied. There was something magnetic about his presence, an honesty she rarely encountered among Arathians, who often hid true thoughts behind layers of etiquette. Elira called for Marcus to be brought to her private chambers. The request was unusual. Arathian protocol preferred formal meetings in designated halls, yet Elira's curiosity had overcome the weight of tradition. Marcus arrived shortly thereafter, stepping lightly into her chambers, his eyes scanning the room with cautious interest. "Princess," he greeted, bowing slightly, though not as formally as an Arathian would. His casual posture seemed strange in the royal setting, but Elira noticed it was confident, respectful, and sincere. "Captain Kane," Elira replied, inclining her head. She motioned for him to sit on one of the low chairs near the window. "I wanted to speak with you privately." Marcus sat, his expression attentive, yet relaxed. "Of course, Your Highness, how may I assist you?" Elira hesitated for a brief moment, considering how much she should reveal. Arathians were trained to conceal emotion and strategy, but something about Marcus made her want to speak openly. "I want to understand your species," she said finally. "Humans are different from anything I have known. Your reactions, your courage, your thinking, they are unusual, yet impressive. I wish to learn more about you, your world, and the ways you approach challenges." Marcus nodded, leaning back slightly. "I can tell you about my world, Princess, but I can also learn about yours. That is what diplomacy is, isn't it? Understanding, not just negotiating." Elira studied him closely. Humans spoke plainly without the intricate diplomacy Arathians relied upon. It was both refreshing and unsettling. She realized that humans valued honesty, courage, and adaptability, while Arathians prized subtlety, tradition, and perfection. Yet perhaps there was strength in this simplicity. They began to talk. Marcus described his home world, a planet called Terran, with vast oceans, sprawling cities, and diverse landscapes. He spoke of his people's resilience, their ingenuity, and their tendency to act decisively when necessary. Elira listened intently, fascinated by the mixture of struggle and achievement he described. Humans faced challenges head-on, she realized, rather than calculating every possible outcome as Arathians often did. In return, Elira spoke of Arathia, the culture, history, and traditions of her people. She described the elaborate ceremonies, the advanced technology, and the high expectations placed upon her as a princess. Marcus listened without interruption, occasionally asking questions, not out of curiosity alone, but with genuine interest. Elira found herself relaxing slightly, feeling a connection forming through their shared understanding of responsibility and duty. Hours passed unnoticed. Sunlight shifted through the windows, casting long shadows across the polished floor. Elira realized she had spoken more openly than she had with anyone in years. She had allowed herself to be seen as a person, not merely a princess. Marcus, in turn, had shared insights about humanity that were practical, honest, and often surprising. She admired his perspective, noting how humans saw solutions where Arathians saw obstacles. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden message on Elira's communicator. A minor dispute had arisen between two Arathian council members regarding resource allocation. It was a delicate matter that required careful handling. Elira excused herself, but Marcus insisted on accompanying her, not intrusively, but as a supportive presence. In the council chamber, Elira observed the tension between the two members. Their voices were calm but laced with underlying frustration. Arathian politics, she thought, was an art of subtlety and control. Marcus stood beside her, silent, watching, and she felt his presence as a grounding force. When it was her turn to speak, Elira addressed both council members with clarity and authority, her voice steady, her gestures precise. She proposed a compromise that satisfied both sides, drawing upon her knowledge of each member's priorities and the potential outcomes. Marcus observed silently, occasionally offering a question or suggestion, which she noted for its practicality and simplicity. The council members left, satisfied with the resolution. Elira turned to Marcus, her eyes reflecting a mixture of relief and quiet admiration. "You handled yourself well even in the background," she said softly. "I appreciate your insight." Marcus shrugged modestly. "I simply observe and think. Your people are brilliant, Princess. I'm only offering another perspective." Elira smiled faintly. Humans, she realized, were not only capable of action but also of understanding complex systems quickly. Marcus embodied that quality perfectly. She found herself thinking about how much she could learn from him, not just about humans, but about leadership, decision-making, and balance. After the council session, Elira led Marcus to the palace training grounds. She wanted to show him another aspect of Arathian life, the physical discipline and skill expected of her people. Arathian training combined agility, precision, and elegance. Elira demonstrated a series of movements, each one fluid and controlled, her body reflecting years of rigorous training. Marcus watched carefully, noting every motion, every shift of weight. Then, to Elira's mild surprise, he requested to try. Though humans were physically capable, their movements lacked the elegance of Arathians. Yet Marcus approached the practice with focus and determination. He learned quickly, adapting techniques to his own strength and balance. Elira found herself impressed by his adaptability. "You are skilled for a human," she admitted, her tone measured but sincere. "Your approach is different yet effective," Marcus smiled. "I learn quickly. Observation and adaptation are important for survival." The training continued, and Elira noticed subtle changes in herself. Being around Marcus allowed her to experiment, to try variations in movement she had never considered, without fear of judgment. His presence encouraged her to explore and trust her instincts. She realized that humans had a way of inspiring confidence, of pushing others to see beyond rigid rules. As evening approached, Elira invited Marcus to the palace observatory. The view of the galaxy from Arathia was breathtaking. Stars glittered like diamonds scattered across a dark velvet sky, planets glowing softly in the distance. Elira felt a sense of peace she had not known in years. "Your world is vast," Marcus said quietly, gazing at the stars. "I have seen many planets, but this is something else." Elira nodded, her gaze fixed on a distant nebula. "It is beautiful, yes, and dangerous if one is unprepared. Every star, every planet carries its own risks." Marcus turned to her, his expression thoughtful. "Humans thrive on challenge. We learn from danger, from difficulty. It makes us stronger, sharper. Perhaps that is why we can relate to leaders like you." Elira considered his words carefully. Humans did not fear challenges in the same way Arathians did. They faced them head-on, learning from mistakes rather than avoiding them. There was wisdom in this approach, a perspective she had never fully embraced. She found herself respecting it and the man who embodied it. Hours passed as they discussed strategy, philosophy, and the responsibilities of leadership. Elira realized that Marcus was not only intelligent, but also deeply ethical. He weighed consequences carefully, considered the impact of actions on others, and yet acted decisively when needed. She could see why humans were both admired and feared by other species. As the night deepened, Elira felt a rare sense of closeness with Marcus. She had allowed herself to be vulnerable in ways she rarely permitted. Sharing her thoughts, fears, and responsibilities created a bond she could not ignore. Marcus, in turn, treated her as an equal, acknowledging her wisdom and courage while offering insights from his human perspective. Finally, they left the observatory. Elira walked beside Marcus through the quiet palace corridors, the soft hum of drones the only sound. She realized that humans, despite their differences, had a quality Arathians often lacked: the ability to connect, to inspire trust, and to act with integrity in the face of uncertainty. Marcus Kane exemplified all of these qualities, and Elira knew their interactions would shape the future of Arathian-human relations in ways she could not yet imagine. As she returned to her chambers, Elira allowed herself a moment of reflection. Humans were strange, unpredictable, and fascinating. Marcus Kane was a mystery she wanted to understand, not merely as a soldier, but as a representative of his species. She realized that learning from him might be as valuable as any formal education she had received. Elira lay on her bed, staring at the twin suns dipping below the horizon. A thought lingered in her mind. Composure was important, but understanding and trust could be just as powerful. And perhaps with humans like Marcus Kane, the universe would feel less intimidating and more full of possibilities. For the first time in her life, Elira felt that meeting a human soldier could change everything. The next morning, the palace was unusually tense. Whispers drifted through the corridors like soft wind over glass. Princess Elira could feel the unease, the quiet watchfulness in the eyes of her attendants and guards. Something was wrong. She had sensed it during the early morning reports, a subtle shift in the palace's usual rhythm. Captain Marcus Kane arrived promptly, as he always did, his steps measured but confident. Elira greeted him with a nod, careful to maintain her composure. Yet inside, her mind was alert, analyzing every detail of the day ahead. "Princess," Marcus said, his tone calm but observant. "Is everything all right? You seem on edge." Elira inclined her head slightly. "There is a situation developing, one that requires careful attention." "You may be called upon to act, Captain Kane. I trust you will remain vigilant." Marcus gave a small nod. "You can count on it." The situation, Elira soon learned, involved political tension between two influential Arathian families. A rival council member, Lord Kale, had quietly begun spreading rumors about the humans. He claimed their presence could compromise Arathia's safety, that Captain Kane's decisions might be reckless, and that Princess Elira was being influenced by an outsider. Elira had expected political maneuvering, she had been trained for it, but the stakes were higher than usual. Lord Kale's influence in the council was strong, and a diplomatic incident could weaken the princess's authority or even threaten her life. She realized that today would be a true test, not just of her composure, but of Marcus's skill and courage as well. A sudden alarm echoed through the palace. Elira's pulse quickened. The sound was sharp, mechanical, and urgent. Security drones activated automatically, moving in precise formations to investigate the disturbance. Marcus immediately scanned the hall, his eyes narrowing with focus. He did not hesitate. "The northern corridor," Marcus said quietly. Something triggered the alarm there. Elira followed him swiftly. The northern corridor led to the area where the humans had been staying. As they approached, the source of the disturbance became clear. A small team of intruders had breached the security perimeter. They wore no insignia, but their intent was unmistakable. They carried devices designed to disable Arathian technology. Elira's heart remained steady, though her mind raced. This was no ordinary threat. It was a carefully planned attack. The intruders moved quickly, bypassing several automated defenses, but Marcus reacted faster. He grabbed a nearby control panel and manually activated a security lockdown, sealing the corridor and cutting off their escape. "Princess, stay behind me," he instructed calmly. His tone carried authority, not arrogance. Elira complied, moving behind Marcus as he advanced toward the intruders. The confrontation was tense. The intruders attempted to override the palace systems, but Marcus anticipated their movements. He disarmed one of them using a precise, calculated motion, then redirected another away from a sensitive control panel. Elira observed quietly, her eyes sharp, noting every action and reaction. Humans, she realized again, had a natural instinct for quick problem-solving and adaptability. The intruders, realizing they were trapped, activated a small energy device that could have caused serious damage to the palace's systems. Marcus acted without hesitation, using a combination of Arathian technology and his own quick thinking to neutralize the device. Sparks flew, the air buzzed with energy, yet no one was injured. When the threat was contained, Elira stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "Is everyone safe?" She glanced at Marcus, whose expression was focused but steady. "Yes, Princess, the intruders are neutralized," he said simply. "No harm has come to your people or the humans under your care." Elira allowed herself a moment of relief, though her mind immediately shifted to the implications. This was not merely an attack. It was a test of her leadership, her judgment, and her ability to trust others. Marcus had proven himself once again, not only in courage but in strategy and intelligence. The council convened shortly afterward. Lord Kale, attempting to exploit the incident, presented a report blaming the humans for the breach. His words were measured, persuasive, designed to sow doubt among the council members. Elira listened carefully, her expression composed, her mind analyzing every statement. Marcus remained at her side, quiet but attentive. He had learned to observe Arathian politics quickly, noting alliances, tensions, and hidden motives. When Elira spoke, her words were precise, firm, and undeniable. She explained the facts of the intrusion, highlighting the humans' assistance in neutralizing the threat. Her voice carried authority, tempered with logic and clarity. The council members murmured among themselves, some nodding in agreement, others hesitant. Lord Kale's plan to discredit Elira was faltering. Marcus's presence lent credibility to her claims. The humans had acted decisively and effectively, proving their value not through words, but through action. "You see," Elira concluded, "this incident demonstrates that cooperation, trust, and quick thinking are as valuable as tradition, planning, and hierarchy. Captain Kane and his team have acted with courage and skill, and their actions have safeguarded Arathia. The council fell silent. Slowly, members began to nod, acknowledging the truth in her words. Lord Kale's face hardened, but he could not dispute the evidence. Elira had maintained composure, presented facts, and allowed her allies to demonstrate their abilities. The result was undeniable. Trust in her leadership remained intact. After the council session, Elira and Marcus retreated to the palace gardens. The tension of the day weighed on them both, though Marcus's expression remained calm. Elira allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. "You were remarkable today," she said quietly, her tone more personal than usual. "Without your presence, the outcome could have been very different," Marcus shrugged modestly. "I only did what was necessary. You made the right decisions, Princess. You led with clarity and composure. That is what mattered most." Elira smiled faintly, feeling a mixture of gratitude and admiration. Humans, she realized, had a unique way of supporting others without overshadowing them. Marcus had acted decisively, yet he had allowed her to shine, reinforcing her authority rather than challenging it. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the palace gardens in soft shades of gold and violet, Elira and Marcus walked in companionable silence. The challenge of the day had tested not only their skills, but their ability to trust one another. Elira realized that trust was as vital as strategy, and that humans possessed a natural talent for building it even in the most tense situations. Later that evening, Elira returned to her private chambers, her mind replaying the day's events. The palace was secure, the humans had proven their worth, and her position remained strong. Yet she knew that challenges would continue. Political rivals would not rest, and the universe beyond Arathia was unpredictable. But she felt a quiet confidence, strengthened by her interactions with Marcus Kane. She had learned that composure did not mean perfection or isolation. True leadership required understanding, trust, and the courage to rely on others. Marcus had shown her that humans, despite their differences, could be trusted allies. He had tested her in a way not by challenging her authority, but by revealing new ways to act, think, and lead. As Elira lay in bed that night, staring at the twin suns setting behind the horizon, she allowed herself a small, genuine smile. The test had been passed, but it had also revealed a deeper truth. Strength came not only from skill and intelligence, but from connection, trust, and courage. Marcus Kane had arrived as a human soldier, unfamiliar and unpredictable. Yet he had proven that he could be much more, an ally, a protector, and perhaps even a guide. Elira realized that the universe was vast, full of challenges, dangers, and opportunities. But with humans like Marcus by her side, she felt ready to face whatever came next. For the first time, Elira understood that true composure included more than control. It included trust, collaboration, and the willingness to embrace the unexpected. And with Marcus Kane, the unexpected was no longer something to fear. It was something to explore. The night deepened, the stars glittering above Arathia, and Elira drifted into sleep with a sense of purpose, anticipation, and quiet wonder. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she felt prepared, strengthened by the lessons of the day and by the bond she had begun to form with the human soldier. The test had been difficult. The threat had been real. But in facing it, Elira and Marcus had proven something far more important, that together, humans and Arathians could overcome even the greatest of obstacles. And the universe, unpredictable as it was, suddenly felt full of possibility. The morning after the crisis had been resolved, Princess Elira walked through the palace corridors with a quiet confidence. The events of the previous day weighed heavily on her mind, but they also brought clarity. Her decisions had been tested, her composure challenged, and her trust in Captain Marcus Kane had proven well placed. She felt a sense of calm satisfaction that she had not experienced in years. Marcus awaited her in the private courtyard, as he had every morning since the humans' arrival. The morning sunlight glinted off the palace walls, casting a warm glow over the fountains and gardens. Marcus stood tall, alert, yet relaxed, his gaze scanning the surroundings as if he expected a threat at any moment, but he did not appear anxious. "Good morning, Princess," he greeted. His voice was calm, confident, yet soft enough to convey respect and consideration. "Good morning, Captain Kane," Elira replied, inclining her head slightly. She noted the subtle smile on his face, a rare sign of humor or amusement from the humans. "I trust your night was restful," Marcus nodded. "As restful as it can be in a palace under heightened security." "And yours?" Elira allowed herself a faint smile. I slept well. Thoughts of the future kept me awake for a while, but the stars reminded me that challenges are best faced with preparation and focus. Marcus stepped closer, lowering his voice slightly. And with allies. Elira's eyes met his, and for a moment, the formal boundaries between human and Arathian seemed to soften. She realized that Marcus had become more than a visitor or diplomat. He had become a companion in understanding, a bridge between their worlds, and a source of perspective she had not known she needed. The Palace Council summoned her for a formal meeting to discuss the political aftermath of the attack. Elira knew that Lord Kale would attempt to recover his influence, to find any angle to undermine her and the humans. She and Marcus prepared, reviewing the security reports, analyzing the Council's tendencies, and anticipating questions. When the Council convened, Elira entered with measured steps. Her expression was calm, her posture regal, but her mind was sharp and ready. Marcus followed discreetly, standing at her side but allowing her to lead. The Council members murmured, their eyes flicking between the princess and the human soldier. Some whispered about his presence, questioning whether it was appropriate, while others recognized the value of his participation. Lord Kale spoke first, his voice smooth and deliberate. Princess Elira, he began, while the human delegation has assisted in resolving the recent incident, we must question whether allowing outsiders to influence Arathian security is wise. Our people must remain independent and cautious. Elira's expression remained steady. She spoke clearly, her words deliberate, leaving no room for misinterpretation. Council members, the incident was resolved not by chance, but through cooperation. Captain Kane and his team demonstrated skill, courage, and decisiveness. Their actions protected Arathia and our citizens. To dismiss their contribution would be both unwise and unfair. Marcus remained silent, his presence reinforcing her argument. He did not need to speak. His calm demeanor and the credibility he had earned through action spoke louder than words. Lord Kale's brow furrowed, but he could find no weakness in Elira's argument. The council members exchanged glances, some nodding, others whispering to one another. Elira had successfully turned the challenge into an opportunity. She had demonstrated leadership, composure, and the ability to integrate the humans' unique strengths into her strategy. After the council session, Elira and Marcus walked through the palace gardens. The air was cool, filled with the scent of luminescent flowers and the gentle sound of flowing water. Elira allowed herself to speak more freely than she had in public. "You handled the council exceptionally," she said softly. "Even when they questioned the humans' presence, your calm and observation strengthened my position." Marcus shrugged, though his eyes betrayed a hint of pride. "I only observed. You led the discussion, made the decisions, and maintained authority. That is what mattered most. I simply supported you where I could." Elira considered his words. Humans had a way of empowering others without overshadowing them. They acted decisively, yet allowed space for leadership to flourish. She realized this quality could be invaluable not only in diplomacy, but in life itself. As the day progressed, Elira arranged a ceremonial toast to honor the humans' contribution. The palace gardens were transformed into a scene of celebration, with soft lighting and elegant arrangements. Council members, attendants, and guards gathered, acknowledging the events and the success of their cooperation. Elira raised her glass, her voice clear and strong. "Today we honor courage, skill, and collaboration. Captain Marcus Kane and his team have shown that humanity brings strength, ingenuity, and loyalty. Let us celebrate the bonds formed between our species and the possibilities they bring for the future." Applause followed, sincere and respectful. Marcus nodded, accepting the acknowledgement with modesty. Elira noticed the subtle changes in the council members' attitudes. Respect for the humans had grown, as had trust in her leadership. The ceremony had reinforced unity, highlighting the value of courage, cooperation, and understanding across species. After the ceremony, Elira led Marcus to a quiet balcony overlooking the city. The twin suns were low, casting a golden glow over the sparkling towers and streets. The view reminded her of the vastness of the universe, of the challenges and opportunities that lay beyond her palace walls. "You have changed my perspective, Captain Kane," she said quietly. "Humans are remarkable. You inspire trust, courage, and adaptability." "It is more than I expected," Marcus smiled faintly. "And you inspire confidence, Princess. Leadership is not just about rules or tradition. It is about understanding, integrity, and trust. You have shown all of these qualities and more. Elira allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. She realized that the universe was not merely a place of protocol and duty. It was a place of potential, of connection, and of learning. Humans, she understood, had much to teach Arathians about adaptability, courage, and honesty. And Marcus Kane embodied these lessons. The evening deepened, and Elira and Marcus continued their conversation in the quiet of the balcony. They spoke of strategy, philosophy, and the responsibilities of leadership. Elira shared her hopes for Arathia's future, while Marcus spoke of humanity's values, struggles, and resilience. Each conversation deepened their understanding of one another, forging a bond built on respect, trust, and shared purpose. As night fell, Elira realized that this bond was more than political, it was personal. She admired Marcus not only for his bravery and skill, but for his perspective, his honesty, and his ability to inspire trust. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were also capable of remarkable understanding, courage, and loyalty. Marcus turned to her, his gaze steady. Princess, today has shown that even in the face of danger, understanding and collaboration can overcome fear and doubt. Your leadership, combined with trust in your allies, has created a strong foundation for the future. Elira nodded, feeling a sense of completeness. The challenges had tested her, yet she had emerged stronger, wiser, and more aware of the potential that humans offered. Yes, she said softly. Trust, courage, and collaboration, these are more powerful than rigid rules alone. I will remember this lesson, Captain Kane. The palace was quiet, the stars glittering above the twin suns. Elira and Marcus stood together, looking out over the city and the galaxy beyond. The events of the past days had changed everything. Humans and Arathians had begun to understand each other, to respect each other, and to see the possibilities that cooperation could bring. Elira felt a sense of peace she had not known before. The humans had proven themselves, not only through action but through integrity and insight. Marcus Kane, once an unfamiliar soldier, had become an ally, a companion, and a symbol of the potential that lay in unity between their species. As she retired to her chambers that night, Elira allowed herself a small, genuine smile. The human soldier had arrived in her world with courage, intelligence, and honesty. He had tested her, supported her, and taught her lessons she would carry for the rest of her life. She realized that true composure did not mean perfection. It meant understanding, trust, and the courage to embrace the unexpected. The stars shone brightly above Arathia, and Elira closed her eyes, confident that the bond between humans and Arathians had grown stronger. Together, they could face the challenges of the universe. Together, they could explore the possibilities that lay beyond the stars. And for the first time, Elira felt that the future, uncertain, unpredictable, and full of challenges, was also full of hope, potential, and promise. The human soldier had arrived, and with him the promise of a new era. The universe was vast, but Elira knew one thing for certain. With courage, trust, and unity, humans and Arathians could meet anything it held. And as she drifted into sleep, the twin suns long set, she felt a quiet certainty that the future would be brighter, stronger, and richer because of the bond they had forged.